All right, welcome back, Be Better Tribe. This is your host, Julian Alvarez. The podcast goal is simple. We want to share stories, lessons, and leadership journeys that have helped us in our past. And I'm really excited to welcome this next guest, Eric Schmitt. Eric and I have known each other for, almost 20 years. And the best part is Eric and I met back in 2006 and 2007. And it's funny because both of us were in a bit of a transition. Eric and I met when I moved from UC Santa Cruz down to Cal Poly, and he moved from Cal State Fullerton. He moved back to Modesto, where his family's from, and then moved out to San Luis Obispo to go to Cuesta College. And it was a funny time for both of us. I think we both reflect back during this conversation and talk about really the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people, putting yourself in a place that's going to drive you to be as successful as you can, and really working through all of the different trials and tribulations of life. And so what's really cool is I got to witness firsthand Eric's work ethic, his discipline, and his commitment in how he developed as a person over a really important time in our lives. He completely transformed the direction of his life, going from Cuesta, finding a passion in strength and conditioning, eventually transferring over to Cal Poly, excelling academically at Cal Poly, and working as a strength and conditioning coach at a local gym. And they ended up going to Springfield College for strength and conditioning. And after that, Eric has done phenomenal. He's worked with top athletes across colleges. He's won national championships. And most recently, he spent 9 years as the head strength and conditioning coach for the Memphis Grizzlies. So Eric knows exactly what it takes to be successful. He's seen the most elite athletes perform at the highest level. And he saw that over almost a decade of time. So today's talk is going to be about our journey, how we met, how our mindset shift over time, and really what we focus on and some of the habits and books and things that we've read in our past that have helped us establish discipline in order to find success. And so before I welcome Eric onto the podcast, I want to make sure I remind you, go to the Be Better Tribe website, bebettertribe.com. Go ahead and order, if you can, a Be Better Tribe habit tracker. Again, this is what I do every day. It outlines some habits, some goals, some things that you're trying to achieve. It allows you to have that be front of the mind. It allows you to kind of keep yourself in check in order to accomplish the goals that you set for yourself. And second thing is, if you want to buy some gear, again, I have this sweatshirt. I'm going to try to create additional shirts and whatnot. So if you'd like to buy some of that, that would be fantastic. But again, any support is fantastic. And also, if you like this podcast, I would appreciate if you like, comment, and subscribe, as well as you could throw it on a review. That would be fantastic. But without further ado, let me go ahead and welcome Mr. Eric Schmitt onto the podcast. All right, everyone. I'm honored to bring on one of my really good friends, Eric Schmitt. Eric and I have been friends, Eric, over close to 20 years, which is insane. And it's crazy because, like, for me, it feels like you were one of those friends that I met later on in life, because I do have a core group that I met like 30 years ago. But geez, 20 years of friendship is nothing to balk at. And it's amazing.
I know.
So, Eric, thanks so much for joining, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited because you know what's so funny is you and I have done a lot together. We lived under the same roof. We've been friends for over 20 years. We drove across country. So we spent like 2 weeks together in a car where I learned how to drive stick shift on the road, which is exciting. But really, man, I'm just inspired by you and your background and what you've done. Because I feel like I met you in somewhat of a transition in your life. And then from that transition, it just seemed like, at least for me, viewing you as a friend, something clicked where you're like, I'm going to be the best at what I do. And so watching you go from like JC, figuring it out, to like being the head of strength and conditioning at the Memphis Grizzlies is such an honor for me to see that journey and that story. And so what I want to get at here, Eric, is talking with you a little bit more about how you figured it out. Like, what happened? Like, where did that passion come from? So the first thing is, we met 20 years ago. At that point, for me, like, you transitioned, you went to one school for a year, you went home for 6 months, and then you came to San Luis Obispo, where me and, one of your best friends, Christian Freitas, were living together. And that's how we became friends. And then it seemed like something clicked where you really wanted to invest in yourself and become I believe it's kinesiology, strength and conditioning, and it
Mhm.
really your passion where you dedicated a lot of your time in your life to. So walk me through how you got the slow and that full journey of how you started in terms of that path.
Yeah, man, this is a good reflection, a good question. I think when I first left like high school, I think the athletics chapter was closing for me, but I was still very interested in kind of being active, being around sports and things like that. So I was kind of like looking for a major that would allow me to, be involved in some capacity in that area. And, at the time, again, I will continue, we'll probably date ourselves so many times throughout this conversation, but at the time, there wasn't a ton of information on strength and conditioning. So I really didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
Um, and so what I got into was physical therapy. I think physical therapy was like the initial kind of impetus of like a career direction,
Sure.
but I didn't take academics very seriously in high school. So the only school I actually got into was Cal State Fullerton. So I applied to a bunch of schools. Cal
Yeah.
Poly was one of those schools, but I got into Cal State Fullerton and went to Cal State Fullerton. And what's funny about Cal State Fullerton is actually a very good school for kinesiology.
Huh.
Um, but again, I didn't appreciate these types of things at the time. I was looking for a more of a college experience that I enjoyed. And it was a big commuter school. So I didn't have much of a social life there. I didn't know many people there in a
Yeah.
way that I was looking for from a college standpoint. I had a girlfriend back home still. So there was a lot of variables that probably led to me just leaving Cal State Fullerton. I just knew I didn't want to be there. So I did go home for a period of time, quickly realized I didn't want to be there. And then, yeah, our mutual friend, Christian, who had transferred with you over to Cal Poly, was the one who really got me into like, oh, this is like, let me kind of step back, figure out where I want to live. I went and visited and being like, okay, they have good programs here. This is, a great place to live. So, ended up just going out there really without much of a plan, to be honest with you. So, when I got out there, I went to Cuesta, the junior college there, enrolled in the kinesiology, so I was still around a lot of these things, but still physical therapy was on my mind.
Yeah.
And part of the curriculum, you have to do internships. So I did an internship. I applied at a bunch of different places. The place I got an internship at was called Athlon Elite, which still exists to this day. And when I was at Athlon, I remember early on, I was talking to some of the trainers there, and they, were asking me my interests and things that I like to do, whatever. And with the way I described it, one of the trainers he said, "I think you want to be a strength coach." And I literally had no idea what that was,
Yeah.
and this is again, dude, we're dating ourselves. This is like '07 probably. Um, so I remember looking into it, and there was a website called strengthcoach.com, and you could join for $1. And this website's hosted by Mike Boyle, who is a big mentor of mine, somebody that I eventually went and worked for. But I
Wait,
remember reading yeah, go ahead.
that's insane that that's your mentor and like you would probably have a relationship with now.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. And that's it was, so I guess a bit of luck, a bit of right place, right time types, scenarios. But yeah, I remember looking into it, and there was a forum where you could read people's questions, and people had asked about, career questions and where to go to school and what to do. And I think what really clicked was I finally figured out what I wanted to actually do. I was
Mhm.
sort of dabbling around,
Sure.
and then I finally figured it out. I was like, okay, so that's the direction to go. So I remember firing away questions. It'd be interesting to go back on the forums actually and see if these questions are still up there.
I
But
bet you they are. I bet
I
you they
remember
are.
firing away questions about it, and figuring out, okay, this is what I want to do. And I think from there, multiple steps ensued to obviously get into the actual career of this, and go from there. But yeah, that was sort of the beginning stages. That was the sort of the iconic moment, was looking into this, and then figuring out, oh, people do this for a living.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. You know what's so funny is, a lot of the times we see this similar story, and it's a very similar story as me, like, my high school GPA was not very good. I only got to college because I could kick the soccer ball, and my parents, like, were like, "Hey, you're pretty good at this, like, keep going down this path." And then the classic freshman year where I feel like a lot of individuals felt lost. They lose a community in high school. They were the highest on the totem pole, and now they're at the bottom of the totem pole again. Relationships that carry over from high school into freshman year, not finding your community early on are some of
Mhm.
the things that we often find. But like, what's really intriguing is like how you pivot out from that and how you like learn from those experiences and then try to tap into something that's going to make you extremely passionate or get you to want to improve. And like for me, it seems like you found a mentor within your community. You found a job that just aligned with potential luck to find this like, oh, I do want to be a strength and conditioning coach potentially. But what I loved is you were proactive. Like you found something that like you were going to be passionate about, but then you started to interact on a forum, which in 2007 is not like I mean, we barely even probably had Facebook. Like we weren't doing, there wasn't like a lot of that
The
forum blog.
MySpace days. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, so you took the proactive approach of, like, wanting to do it, and, like, I guess that's when we met, Eric, is, like, I
Yeah.
saw you be I saw you as one of the most dedicated individuals where when we lived together, you had stacks of textbooks, all these Post-it notes. You were ingrained in, like, learning this craft, and so, like, for me, was it really just like it scratched this itch of like your eagerness to learn or like you like the body that's like the physiology of the body, like your mentors, like what really made you dive headfirst into the crafts?
Man, good question. I bet you it's probably insecurity, man, of just wanting to, yeah, probably insecurity of realizing that I really needed to grow and to be better. And I think that the the thing I realized going back to like I remember parts of like posting on that forum and that being such a transformational thing. But the thing I realized was the gap between me and those people, and I
Ooh,
think that the gap between where I was and what I was doing. And then to get to these like, well, these guys work with pro athletes. They work for the best, some of the best sports leagues in the world and these types of positions. And it's like, that was a pretty big distance between us. And I just remember being like, okay, like the only way to close the gap is to like, just go all in, just immerse yourself. And so I think the insecurity of like not feeling like I was, good enough at something,
sure.
well, having a direction to apply that and figure out where I could really dig into something. I think that's what drove that sort of desire. Um, at the same time, again, I remember one of the people that worked at Movement for Life, that was the PT clinic that was associated with Athlon, where I was at the time. He was. I remember having a conversation at the Christmas party where he talked to me about readers are leaders and how
Mm,
important it is to invest in yourself and these types of things. And that's still stuck with me to this day. Where I was like, well, I actually enjoy reading things that I enjoy. So I think it
totally.
was multiple layers to that, but ultimately it was just like having a direction to apply that and then trying to ensure that, I was just committed to improving it. And insecure in a way of like, man, I was at the JC, y'all were at Cal Poly, the big school. My brother is, super, he's known as a smart one in our family for sure. And so there's probably some deep seated stuff there where it was like I needed to prove something. And I think that was maybe how that went.
Yeah, and sometimes people view that as, like, a bad thing, but it's like, it's good to have drive, it's good to have ambition, it's good to, like I don't know, for me, having back against the wall a little bit and, like, being like, "Shit, I need to grow up and I need to get better." Like,
Yeah.
I need to try to get better, and having that drive to do that is great. You know what's so funny is the question that I have written down is, like, your path wasn't traditional, but you
Uh-huh.
know what, like, as I think about it and as I have all these conversations across this podcast, it is traditional to go through step forward, step back, not to know
Yeah.
what you do,
Yeah.
get kinda lucky and have that kind of fall into place, and what's crazy is readers are leaders, I love that, and the funny part is when you and I drove across country, we met up with someone you were training, Brandon Roberts.
Yeah, 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 right.
Brandon Roberts became a really strong mentor for me, and
Yeah.
he was the one that instilled being a really strong reader and having
Mhm.
to yourself, and so it's so funny how it all works of, like, decision to drive across country with you allowed me to meet somebody that actually instilled something in me that made me want to be better in terms of
Yeah.
picking up books. And so one of the things that often do with you is like, I know you're an avid reader. I know that you read really good material. And so I often reach out to you for advice and for books that you picked up that actually have impacted you. And so the question that I have for you is, now that you're a lifelong learner and you're an avid reader, what book, lesson, or idea you've come across that has like really stuck with you and continues to like make an impact on your life and your career?
Oof, man, that's a that's a good question. I'm gonna keep saying good question because those are deep, man. Um, yeah, that's a tough one. I read a lot of books. I read a lot of different material, and I don't have any of my books with me right now because they're being shipped from Memphis. So I would usually just turn around and sort of look for
Yeah, I
something
see
that
that.
could spark the idea of a book. But um, I try to read the classics a lot. I know you and I have we've connected on like Atomic Habits.
Yep.
I know we've connected on Man's Search for Meaning. These are ones that are just popping into my head. Good to
Oh,
Great.
yep.
There's a lot of like transformational material that I think hits you at the right time. I don't know. I sort of see books like there's so many good books out there,
Yeah.
right? But they
Yeah.
need to hit you at the right time. And
Mm,
so um I think I definitely overbuy books. Like I shipped about 2,000 books or something like this that from Memphis to California, which is really stupid when you have to pack that many books.
we going to start a
Um,
little, like, we're going to start a little library or what
yeah,
someday?
it's insane, man.
Yeah.
Um, I don't say that. Yeah, the only reason I say that is because I started buying, buy every single book that I could, that interested me at the
Sure.
time. But I would read the ones that interest me at the time. So I'm notorious for taking like 10 books off the shelf when I'm done with one, and sort of like skimming through them until I find one that sticks, and then I just devour it. So I
Yeah.
think it has to hit you at the right time. But
Okay.
there are classics, right? So I do think what the first one that pops into my head is um The Prophet pops into my head, and Man's Search for Meaning. Those are two books I come back to a lot
Okay.
because they instilled some really important lessons that I just think just continue to just be so true. And I think the cool part about it is when you reread some of these classics, you get new lessons, right? You're not the same
Yeah.
person reading that book, even if you've read that material before. So Man's Search for Meaning, I try to read quite a bit through these like important stages in life. And I think that just coming back to having a deep purpose, deep sense of purpose to commit yourself to, I think is so valuable. And a thing that probably, that I think about when it comes to a deep lesson from the book, right? Everybody, sometimes you find yourself not being super motivated or not knowing what direction to go.
Hmm.
And I think that's totally normal. It's like the normal human experience. But I think, staying with things, and having an understanding that like finding the meaning and finding the purpose will drive the commitment, will drive the behaviors, will lead to, a better version of yourself. So those are maybe some things that are just popping up into my head. But yeah, man, it's a tough one because people ask me for book recs all the time. That's a really difficult question it's a really difficult thing for me to answer because it's like, well, I would have to know where you're at right now. There's so many good reads, but I would start with classics if you don't know, and then I would go from there, right? Because one thing about reading and why I'm so passionate about it is like it's just such a cheap education. It's
Right.
like it's like you can take somebody's life work that is, I mean, is so accessible, so easy, so valuable to acquire, and you get it for $10 or something. It's just insane to me that you can just learn somebody's entire like what they've spent their entire life trying to figure out. They've consolidated, they've put it in a way that's engaging, and you can take that for so cheap and so accessibly and so easy. So anyway, long-winded answer to probably guide us towards like Man's Search for Meaning comes to the top of my head.
I agree with that. And you know what's so funny is like when somebody asked me for book recommendations, I used to just spout out like boom, 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 boom. But now the question often is like, well, what are you looking for? What
Hmm.
interests you? Like, are you looking for an autobiography that's going to motivate you? Do you need
Yeah.
something in terms of like techniques on how to continue to get better each day? Because Atomic Habits. Do you need a deep book about like tragedy and how to look at the like bright side? Because Man Search for Meaning, like gosh, that hits home like a ton. And so like, I think it's that those are the right questions. And what I loved what you said is like reading a book at the right time in your life makes the world of difference. It's like
Mhm.
if you read a certain book at a certain time in your life, it could have the most profound meaning for you. And sometimes
Yeah.
it just doesn't hit, and that's okay. But like going back to books that like have that deeper meaning, I often feel like reading a book 2 or 3 times is so much more beneficial than reading 10 books that are
Yeah.
just okay, because you can go deep into it. But what I
Yeah.
love what you said is like another thing is when somebody asks me like, or they like talk about finding a mentor. I'm like, that is great. If you can find somebody that's going to connect with you to coach you, develop you for sure. You could also spend $10 and find a mentor between these pages. Like,
100%.
if
Yeah.
you just dedicate yourself to like reading and like really diving in deep into individuals that you're inspired by, you will pick out so many life lessons that are going to help you become a better individual. And like, I love that.
Mhm.
'Cause I think it rings true to me of like, don't wait for somebody to be your mentor. Go find a mentor yourself and go in like entrench yourself in their information. It's just it's easy to say, it's hard to do because you got to
Yeah,
spend
very much, man. That's a great way to
time.
look at it, and it's like time traveling. Like, you can go back and meet people that are no longer here, and they've written, unbelievable works, and you get to just time travel and have a really, like, have a conversation back and forth with them, you know? So it's just a special thing, man. I think if you don't the way I always tell people too, like, people say, "Oh, I don't like reading." I'm like, "You just haven't found the right book, man." Like,
Totally.
I don't believe you found the right book. Like, when you do, there's nothing better than just sort of like being at peace with yourself, allowing yourself just because it slows you down. It forces you to kind of like work through the voices in your head and
Yeah.
just have a deeper, like, I don't know, just a deeper ability to like acquire information and just, yeah, to just learn, you know?
You know what? Now thinking about it, Eric, it makes me think of like it builds a stronger connection to yourself. In
Mm.
my
Yeah.
A lot of the deepest readings and books that I've read is like the Stoicism or, the philosophers and all that type of stuff. It's like, damn, they didn't have it really figured out either. And the way in which they write is like almost like questioning their thought process or like putting things
Definitely.
on paper of like what they experience. And like a lot of what they say still rings true today, even though the world is completely different. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I feel like the life that we have here is meant for us to enjoy it, to have fun, to connect deeper with ourselves, with others. At least that's what I found in terms of like what
Yeah.
makes me happiest and
Yeah.
connected.
I think, yeah, it's really, that's a really good point. I think there's so many, lessons in life that are kind of unteachable in many ways. So like I think reading about a lot of these, a lot of the struggles of people in the past and some of the things, like I think about like Marcus Aurelius is like a
Oh,
classic one, right? Of
yeah.
just like you sort of you look at some of the things that he was writing about, or like heroes' journeys, and like there's so many just different lessons that you can really like interpret for sure, but they're unteachable in many ways. Like you still need to
Totally.
go through the process of like learning the hard way, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think the journey of doing that will give you the right perspective to just continue to find ways to keep going in life. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
find ways to being successful in life. It's like, yeah, people tell you money doesn't make you happy, but like you got to go through the process of trying to get money and then realizing that like, you know, yeah, I guess it doesn't make you happy, but it does solve some problems, but it doesn't solve all the problems. So you better work on some other things along the way. And I think there's just so many, I don't know, so many valuable lessons like that that I think
Yeah.
about when it comes to like the classics.
What I think about is like a lot of those stories and stuff, the journeys and the like perseverance those individuals have and the setbacks and like the tough times and like the fact that you look at like I don't know what comes to mind here is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, which is a
Yeah,
story of
yeah, yeah.
where 90% of the book is his struggle to actually make it to where he was, which I
Yep.
think is beautiful because like you look at Nike and you're like, oh, Phil Knight, he's always been successful. He's always been wealthy. He's always been able to connect with these superstar athletes. But like in reality, like the dude was selling sneakers out of his car at high
Yeah.
school track meets. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you look at that, like you're dang, that guy was a loser until he made it. But like he did it because he had that grind. I love it. So is there anything like I'd love to learn a little bit more about any setbacks that you had, anything that you would say like adversity, a story that you would be willing to share that like, man, your back was against the wall. You didn't know if you were gonna make it. You tapped into something that really motivated you to get by? Is there anything like that that you could share with us?
Yeah, man. Um, Setbacks. Yeah, I think, I mean, I guess for whatever reason, what just pops into my head here is, is going to Cuesta, man. It's like the time I was at Cuesta, because I remember the perception that was like of me when I went to a junior college, when
Totally.
my friends were like at, the big schools, and, we're at Poly. I remember the perception of that, and that felt, I wouldn't call it a setback now, but it felt like it was a setback, and I
Sure.
think that, um, that was certainly a very motivating time, because it just, there was, yeah, I sort of saw no other way to, I saw no other path forward than to figure out how to achieve what those around me had already achieved. But we've already kind of talked about that. So I'm trying to think of something that,
I
you
mean,
know,
dude, Eric, I was the Cal Poly kid. I lived with four of the Cal Poly soccer guys. We were probably your best buds at that time because like
for sure.
because Christian, it's like, man, like you were the Quest kid. It's
For
like,
sure. Yeah.
if we had to take a bets on who was going to be like extremely successful, like we've all luckily been really successful. Which is crazy,
I
but like
know it is crazy. I know.
you were a year and a half behind us. Like you
Yeah.
were definitely behind the eight ball because you went from 4 year to a JC, all of that type of stuff. So like that is an amazing journey, man. Like what, like you said you found like the path because you found like what you really love, but like
Yeah.
I'm assuming there was times where you were like, fuck, this isn't going to be worth it. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was still pretty hard to get in. That was one
Totally.
thing I sort of like. There's a couple times, both admissions to schools I went to, right? So both Cal Poly was probably the hardest one to get into Cal Poly. Now there was a feeder program, so there was a path, but it was really hard to get in. I had to have like a super high GPA there, um, and take some tests and whatnot. But in grad school was the same way. It was like you had like, I was just like, I didn't have a plan B, man. It was like, I just like, it was gonna happen, and it fortunately did enough to make it happen. But like, yeah, I don't know what would have happened had I not, been able to get into Cal Poly, or been able to get into Springfield College, which is where I went and did my grad work, which was again where, full circle, right? Mike Boyle, the guy who runs the strengthcoach.com, that's where he told me to go. He said, go to Springfield College for your master's if you want to be
Yeah.
a strength coach. And I said, okay, that's where I'm going to go. I didn't have a plan B. It was like, I'm just going to go there. So if I didn't get in there, who knows? But yeah, I mean, I guess like, yeah, it certainly felt like a setback. I felt like I didn't know if it was going to happen, but I felt like it had to happen, so I just I had no backup.
Well, I mean, kudos to you because, like, at least for me, you worked as if you didn't have a backup. Like, for me, like, I didn't take school seriously and I didn't even take it seriously at Cal Poly. Like, I really didn't take education until like, or learning until later on in life. And I
Mm.
just felt like you were the great example. And I actually think about how you were so dedicated. And like, I try to give myself at least a chance by dedicating a moment of my time on this type of stuff. And so I saw that, and look, man, we drove across country. We had a great time. We saw we saw the full United States. We had
Yeah.
great memories. There
Oh,
were
yeah.
sleep towns like Iowa City where we had a bunch of
Oh my
fun.
goodness.
Yeah, it was like
I
we
tell
were
Iowa City story at least
yeah,
like once a month, man.
we saw your cousin in Colorado Springs. They took us to
Yep.
that amazing castle. So like
Yeah.
we've went on that journey together, and it's been 20 years. And like you've worked with the best athletes in the world, the Memphis Grizzlies. You have been able to help them get to the peak of their athletic ability by helping them gain strength, gain muscle, gain stamina, whatever the case may be. What I'd love to know is tap into a little bit of your experience in terms of like, what are the habits, the mindset, or the behaviors that you consistently see at such a high level working with these athletes?
Mm. Yeah. Man, I think it's a mixture of what you
Okay,
would probably expect in a high performance environment, where there are certainly individuals who are like innately skilled,
sure.
who have these these talents that are just, they supersede like logic. It's just like, I don't know how this happened, for you to be so gifted at these particular skills.
Yeah.
So school is a huge variable that I think separates a lot of people, but some of the underlying elements there of being in a high performance environment, I think you find people that are highly critical of things that surround their abilities. So when I say that, I think of like, going from, I've always felt like I can be a pretty personable,
Yeah, for
I'm pretty
sure.
personable with people. I didn't have a ton of trouble in this industry navigating like connection with many diverse athletes, especially in college. Like I felt like the dynamic of when I was a college strength coach that I was able to just connect with people pretty easily. When I got to the pros, I was kind of taken back at how much that kind of shifted a little bit,
Sure.
where the connections had to be in many ways a lot deeper because I think that they were much more critical. Those individuals are much more critical of things that impact their vocation, right? So they didn't just innately trust me. They didn't just take my word for it. They probed, they asked questions, they pushed back. They don't care what degrees I have, what words I use, how smart, I think I am or whatever. They're really critical of how I may be able to help them. And so I think that was certainly a learning experience of just like those those elements, that I maybe took for granted in some ways. I can't take for granted at all at the professional level because most of the athletes are just, they're more skeptical of things, and I think that comes from many different reasons, but part of that is that, they were able to achieve such high levels of success, through very specific means. And it's like, if somebody coming into their environment, they're going to be highly, just highly skeptical of how that person may be able to actually support and help them. So I just think the trust variable took a long time to uh,
Mm.
develop, and with certain athletes more than others. That was sort of a theme that I was a little bit taken back that I noticed at the professional level of working the professional level, and just dealing with those athletes. Um, and I think the other thing comes to mind is it's the age old like consistency is really the key to everything, right? Um, not being bored with fundamentals, being incredibly consistent with yourself and with your behaviors, with your actions. I think those things are superpowers at the highest level. And so
Mm.
I think that the people that we see that we maybe like revere, the best athletes in the world, um, yeah, they're insanely skilled, but they also hold these like traits at a really high level. I think people that we would see as like just high achievers, they have very consistent behaviors, very consistent habits. It just is magnified on the stage that they're on. So it's just cool to like vibe with those people because I think we try to we try to have those behaviors and
Sure.
those traits. And I think in that environment, you just get to develop special connections with people that are just popular and skilled, that it's cool to have like deep relationships with some of these people now that are, in that space. But yeah, so those are kind of the things that that definitely come into my head for that.
I think that makes a lot of sense because, like, the way I look at it, and please challenge this if this is the wrong assumption. You worked at UCLA, you worked at UC Santa Barbara, you have national championships under your belt with teams that you've coached. Like these kids and these individuals were at the peak of their athletic careers and they won at the highest level. Then you go into professional athletics. This is their livelihood. There's a difference, in my opinion, from what you explained of like, this is the guy's person's livelihood. You're telling them what to do. They're like, I don't know. I've been doing this for a while now. My contract that's going to be up next year for X amount of millions of dollars. Like, you better be right because if you're not, this is how I support my family,
Mhm.
which is really a different dynamic. And I loved how you talked about that because, like, when you go in from a college to career, wherever it is, like, they're obviously going to be consistent of behaviors. And like those individuals, whether it's college or professional, they're going to put in the work. They're putting in the work. They have the right behaviors, but like you step up to like the professional level, like you have to really, in my opinion, like I don't know, it seems like you doubled down. You created that trust, you created that framework, and you actually started to show things that were going to help them get results, which is going to help. But like that's an interesting take that I didn't think about of like, oh man, that is a different element when you're working with like professionals. But like what I loved what you said is like their consistency doesn't change. Like those individuals are at the gym, they're working their tail off, they're eating right. Like, and I'm assuming some of the individuals don't, but like there's a lot of the times, like in order to stay at the top, you have to like work to stay there. I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, in some cases, yes, I would say. In some cases, maybe not. Man, it's like I think that there's, like I said, that I do think that there's people that are just innately skilled at something.
Yeah.
Um, that I think if you look at the totality of people's careers and how much they grow when they get to the highest levels, I think that tells you a lot. A
Oh,
lot of
good
things,
point. Yeah. Okay.
you know. Because a lot of these guys come into the professional ranks at a really young age. I mean, ages that we're talking about 20 years ago, and like things that we were we were trying to figure out in life. It's like, yeah, they're literally coming into their profession at that age, and magnify that with the social dynamics that they have to deal with, the pressure from the media, and just everything being just blasted out about them all the time. It's like there's a lot of growth that does need to still occur,
Mm,
and their surrounding environment is so important at that, at this critical time, especially when you come into money, when you have a lot of money now, which opens up access to do a lot of things that you didn't have the ability to do before. So there's certainly a there's a balance to that. It's
sure.
definitely isn't like every person that reaches the highest level did so through sheer grit and determination and consistency and this, that, and the other. And I'm certainly not trying to downplay like what it requires to be there. But at the end of the day, I think if you look at people's trajectory when they do get there, that can tell you a lot too, because
Totally.
think about this. It's like, I think many people's dream is to get there. I think in most people's dream, right? You have this, I don't know, whatever dreams we have in life. It's like, I want to get somewhere. Right. So for me, again, we can go back to this too. It's like, I did want to be the best strength coach that I could possibly be, whatever the hell that means. Right.
Sure.
But for some, that dream, and in some ways that dream was, yeah, to work at the highest level, right? To work with the best athletes. That would be a dream. But it's like, well, what do you do when you get there then? Like you are there. So then what is genuinely like, what commitments and motivations underneath that do you actually have? Well, think about a professional athlete getting somewhere and being like, this was the dream. Now I'm here. So what motivates me to continue to put in the work, to continue pushing, especially when you get like these max contracts, or somebody who's like grinding, and then they get boom, $200 million contract. It's like your money problems are gone, right? Like you never will have a money problem again in your life. So then, what are you striving to achieve?
Mm,
Because, at that level, like to even win a championship, the incentive to win a championship, the monetary incentive is not even worth it. It's like
yeah.
inconsequential. Like a pro winning a championship is like a $500,000 bonus, which to you and I is like, it's a lot of money. But
Totally.
to somebody who has $200 million, like that's kind of like whatever, like, is it worth the 6 weeks of my summer that I could just be chilling, It's like, I don't know. It's crazy to think about, but, so yeah, so I often think about just there is a balance to all this. And I think there's like, I do love to see the trajectory of people's career. That's why I constantly cite LeBron as being just so special, because it's like,
Totally.
the dude's got $1 billion. Imagine being that motivated to continue to do these, like the grind of an NBA season is insane. It's
Yeah.
just a very long, monotonous, a lot of late nights, a lot of travel, a lot of just doing, you're just slugging along like city to city. It's a lot, it's a traveling circus in many ways. So just to think about people that do it as long as they do for the love of it is kind of inspiring to me. So certain lessons I've learned from some of the old vets that are just, they got it made. They're set for their life, but they're doing this through sheer passion. I think that you find a mixture of people that, again, they get to that highest level, and they have to sort of recalibrate why they do it. And some people really work through, and I think some people don't, and it's just an interesting space. So a cool space to definitely be a part of.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that you bring that up. To me, went into a completely different direction than I thought, but it's kind of an amazing way to look at it. It's like we have this blank canvas that we're creating in life, and like you think when you get something, it's going to be done,
Yeah.
but it's just the beginning. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
as an athlete, I mean, if you and I got that amount of money that they got at the age that we were when we met each other 20 years ago, at late teens, early 20s, I would be scared about the decisions that I would have
I
made.
know. I
And
know.
I am so thankful that I didn't have to make those decisions at that time. Or I would have hoped that the people around me would have helped me craft
Mhm.
what I like the decisions that I need to make. But besides the point is like, it's all about the journey that you're on, right? It's all about like whatever stage in life that you are at, you want to ensure that you're improving, you're getting better, you have a passion to, you know, like you mentioned LeBron James, he's been doing it for so long. It's insane. Like you got to continue to tap into your why and your purpose. And if it's not
Yeah.
there, like you potentially could get lost, which I think is an important thing to like instill. Like you want to always be working towards something. And once you lose that passion, like you got to find it again. I don't know how, but you
It's
got it.
so big time, man. It's so hard. You almost have to have these goals, but detach yourself from the result of the goals, right?
Detach
It's like
from the outcome.
yeah, it's like yeah, exactly. Like detach yourself from the outcome. So it's so cliche, right? I just always think about like unteachable, like what unteachable lessons am I going through right now? It's like the journey is the destination. It's like so cliche.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. Everybody says it. But I think when you achieve these sort of like what you would look back, like when we have these conversations, I look back, it's like, okay, those are like sort of pivotal milestone moments in your life.
Yeah.
But like, and it's nice to acknowledge those, but it's also nice to just sort of like, okay, like keep going because the reality is it really is about the journey and the process of going towards these things, right?
Yeah.
So I think that like developing a passion and a joy for like learning is what it's all about. Like I love to sit and learn. Like I just love to
Yeah.
sit, read, acquire information. Sometimes people are like, well, what are you doing that for? It's like, what, I don't know. What are you not doing that for? I don't know. Like, because I enjoy it. I just
It makes
enjoy
you
knowing things, learning things. It makes me feel like I'm having some sort of purpose in this world. It's like, because the reality is like, you'll never achieve anything, I think, and just be like, I made it. Like, never.
yeah.
You know? I mean, I have
And
all
it
these conversations with people about, how do I become a strength coach in the NBA or I want to be this? And it's like, I don't even know if you know that, I don't know, like, I don't know if maybe that's worth, again, putting it at the top and saying, this is where I'm going. Um, but it's like, yeah, be careful of being too attached to these outcomes because the reality is I don't think they'll satisfy you in the same way or give you the same sort of like fulfillment and happiness. It's like you really do have to appreciate the process of it all. Very cliche. I'm like sitting here rolling my own eyes at myself,
I
but it's
love
like
it though. I
it's
love
so
it.
man. They're just
Yeah.
they're just they're just unteachable lessons though. Like you're not gonna tell somebody that and they're gonna be like, got it. I'm gonna apply that. It's like, no, they're gonna have to go through that.
It's almost like if you're trying to get to a goal to check your ego, it's like, it's not going to make you happy.
Exactly. Yeah.
If that's literally the only thing you're trying to do is check a box for your ego because you think it's going to make you happy, like you gotta like at least for me, it's like I love these conversations. This is what gets me in flow state. I love being with my family. I love connecting with others. I love reading books. And like if you just focus on those processes, you're gonna build a pretty fun and exciting life. Like you're gonna build
Yeah.
a meaningful life, which is like if you're chasing titles, like the meaning behind those titles is what makes sense to me.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, I
like
think like yeah, it's like the person you become in the process is really what you're after. It's not
totally.
even because change requires you to like apply yourself, right? To be something better than you currently are is work. Like there's inertia to like get that process going. And then there's like the whole like I gotta stay with something. I
Yeah.
gotta continue to like get outside my comfort zone. There's all these variables that inevitably are like that's really what you're chasing is like that process, right? And it's like who you become in that process is more valuable than what you become, I guess. You know what I mean? Like the title that you get for doing that work. It's like so I think that's what yeah. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
those are just like important lessons to just remember,
Totally.
and apply.
Totally. And it's what makes life worth living. Like,
For sure, man.
you feel that I at least for me, I feel the most I feel the happiest and most fulfilled when I am checking off boxes, when I'm, like, doing things, when I'm taking steps forward, when I read a book, when I did something I don't know, it's like when you start to complete things, like you feel good, and when you had the
Mhm.
lazy mornings, when you didn't wake up, when you snoozed your alarm, when you didn't complete that habit that you wanted to, when you made the wrong decision, like, that's when I think life almost feels overwhelming, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
it feels
Yeah.
like tough, but I know we've ran over a bit here. I always like to end this way, Eric. Obviously, you and I have been friends for 20 years. We're going to be lifelong friends now. You can't get rid of me. So I want to hear some advice from you, whether it's for someone early in their career, whether it's someone going through a transition, whether it's someone just having a really tough time. What advice would you give them?
Oof. Yeah, those are, again, good question. uh, the thing that comes to mind is, um, the thing that comes to mind is I think it's called the Stockdale paradox, which is this belief that you're going to figure out like a way through this while also acknowledging that there's a lot of work to do to figure out a way through this. You know what I
Mm,
mean? So it's like there's this ability to be super introspective that I think is really important for people. And something I try to like, I try to do quite a bit is just be very introspective with myself and my current, my current state, my current abilities, the way I'm thinking about things or my current skills or whatever it is. Um, and then also have the confidence and the knowledge, like the belief in yourself to actually change for the better,
mm,
with the work and to do so. So I think it's like this, it's sort of dualistic in many ways. But I would just cultivate an ability to be uh, very thoughtful of yourself, while also having the self confidence and the belief in yourself to like improve. I think those are things that come to mind when you ask me that. So
I love that. I love that. And so, anyone listening, whether you're going through a tough time, a transition in your career, whether you're trying to land a job, the Stockdale paradox is what we recommend here, which I think is great. It's the resilience that describes the ability to maintain unwavering faith. So, you know what it reminds me? I don't know if you've seen that
Ooh,
post from like Tom Hanks or those like actors. It's like, this too shall pass. It's like,
yeah,
it's going to pass, but like, have that faith, have that like belief in yourself that like it's going to pass. You just keep taking one step forward in believe in yourself. I absolutely love it.
yeah, man. If you don't believe in yourself, like who's gonna believe in you? You know what I mean? I think is like step one is like, I think it's critical to like be your own biggest advocate.
Yeah,
So
I
if
love
I guess if we go back to like the question you asked, it's like that would be step one, man. It's like belief. You have to cultivate a belief in yourself, and to do so, I think you have to follow through with the things that you say you're going to follow through with. And so, until you do that, I don't think I just don't think you'll be that successful. It's just you have to have that.
You gotta put one step forward. You gotta get shit done. Like do it. Do what you say. And
Yeah,
then you'll build that confidence within yourself. I love it. All right. Well, Be Better Tribe. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining here. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. Eric, you're a lifelong friend for me. Appreciate that everything you've done for me in my life. And thanks so much for joining the Be Better podcast.
yeah. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Thanks.